Welcome to Deconstruct the Universe. My name is Patrick, and deconstructing with me today are Justin and Matt. In this episode, we'll be talking about what we believe to be is the worst art in Versus System. We'll go through our bottom 7, and then we have 3 that we firmly believe are the worst cards in the game. And the first one we're going to go over today is Sharon Carter. The Sharon Carter from S.H.I.E.L.D., card number SVH040. It's the one from the S.H.I.E.L.D. versus Hydra set. We have talked about this before in a previous episode, but what makes this card art so bad?
Yeah, we talked about this in episode 6 along with the Falcon card. And this one we determined was pretty bad when we talked about it initially, and I actually think it is one of the worst choices in the game. It's less that it's bad art, because it's by Alan Davis, who's a notable artist, and he's kind of got a unique classic style. But this selection that they chose from this page is just strange because Sharon Carter just looks like a mess. Like, she doesn't look like a strong, powerful superhero. She looks like she's been through the ringer, and her hair.
She just woke up out of bed.
Yeah, her hair's all bedhead. Her jumpsuit is all dirty, and it's just a very strange card choice. And we had talked about it on that previous episode, how there are other choices on that page that I think would have been better to use for Sharon Carter than this card.
Her head just looks really big too in that profile view. Like, I guess a lot of it is just hair, but her chin kind of like jutting out, and then like the big head of hair in the back. Like, if you look from her chin to the top back of her head, there's a lot of space there. And so it just doesn't work for me.
Ironically, Alan Davis is known for drawing kind of luxurious hairstyles, and so it's sort of funny that this is like this is probably the rattiest hair he's ever had to draw in his whole career.
It's just like a bad wig.
Immortalized on a playing card.
Well, this is from 2011, and I'm pretty sure there's better Sharon Carter art that has been released since then. Even the new one that we got in the Civil War arc isn't great, but it's better than this.
Well, I will defend that one. Like, maybe her face isn't all that great in it, but I love the coloring on the new Sharon Carter card that we have. I think it's Agent 13.
Agent 13, yeah.
And I love the background for it too. So I'll defend that one a little bit more, but it is definitely better than this one.
Yeah, I think they need to do Sharon Carter better than they have in both of those cards, though. The newer one is better, but it's still her facial expression is kind of strange, and she looks kind of pained, and I don't know, just need a better Sharon out there.
Sharon deserves better is what we're getting at.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Black Widow from the Champion set, card number MMU017. The artist on this card is Luke Ross.
So this was another one of mine that I had found to be one of the worst pieces of art chosen for the game. And again, this is similar to the last one, where Luke Ross is not a bad artist by any means, but this card choice for Black Widow is really strange because she's, again, got this pretty bizarre facial expression, and her arms are flayed out, and it just looks so uncanny. I don't know. There's something about it that's really off. And as you know, we here at Deconstruct the Universe like to source the artwork. We found this one, and it turns out that it's actually upside down. The original artwork, she's doing a backflip, and so that might be one reason why it looks so strange, because she's been flipped face up. And I've looked at the original artwork, and I do think that she actually does look more natural when she's upside down. And so I think that they just made a bad choice here in deciding to flip this over. And what I truly believe is that they probably found the art and they were like, this is cool, she's being graceful and athletic, and she's dodging these bullets and firing guns at the same time. They put that on the card art, and then somewhere along the way someone was like, oh, this is upside down, we need to fix this, and then they flipped it over. Or maybe someone decided that because of the way it was cropped, having her upside down didn't make any sense like it does on the page, because you're missing a lot of the page context. And so either way, like I believe the intent was to have her upside down originally, and then at some point they decided to flip her face up instead of just choosing different artwork.
Yeah, and something I can appreciate about this is that she is in combat. Like, the face she's giving, I don't know if that's all that great, but I do appreciate...
Look at her mouth. What do you mean it's not that great? She is waiting for someone to throw popcorn into her mouth or something.
Yeah, it's not good. But I do appreciate that she's in a moment of action, and I think that's really cool. As much as I do like the new Black Widow art that we got with the Civil War set, I think the art in that is really good. You know, she is just standing there. So to have a card where there's a moment of action and she's getting to be Black Widow, I think that's really nice. It's just, yeah, that face. I can't get over that face. And it's a lot of chest area, too. Let's be honest here. Like, if you, like, you see, like, from the top of her head down to, like, the middle of her chest, there's just a very long, it's so much skin.
Well, learning that she's actually upside down, I don't think that gravity is working properly here. I think there should be a couple of things on this card that are a little more headed the other direction.
But you do make a point that if you look at the full uncropped artwork, there is the Hydra Popcorn Man who is shooting popcorn into the air, and so
Yes.
that probably...
You die if you don't catch the popcorn in your mouth. Is that what it is? So she knows
yeah.
this. So she's like, oh, I gotta get the popcorn.
So it's just out of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And maybe it would have worked better if it was tilted more so that it wasn't exactly as if she was like standing or straight vertical like this. Maybe if it was just tilted a little bit more in one way so that it did look like it was more in motion and not that she was like diving forward or something like that. Maybe that would have been better.
Well, we know that it can be done while rotating the card because Spider-Man 2099 was also rotated.
Yes,
I think
and that looks good.
It does look very good. That art is upside down and they rotated it as well. Looks great.
And Dinosaur has also been rotated, and Dinah looks great too, right?
She does, sure.
She was actually a narrow miss in my top 5.
All right, moving on to Pile Driver. This is an artist that we cannot find, but Justin has some strong feelings on this card. Pile Driver is from the Masters of Evil, card number MOE016.
All right, this one is another one of mine, and this one just, I don't quite know what it is. It just looks kind of amateurish to me. The bold lines around him, maybe it's a deep zoom, and maybe it's just that his costume isn't that interesting. Like, it kind of just looks like he's wearing a white long sleeve t-shirt, and then he's got a mask over the top of it, and there's just something about it that just doesn't really come across as like a great choice to me.
I disagree. I have to disagree. This is one that I do not agree with. Maybe the whole costume t-shirt thing, maybe that has some viability. Maybe it is zoomed in. I really like the bold inking and outlining of this. I think it looks really cool. I mean, maybe it is a little bit more like cartoony, more of like a younger animation style, but we don't really have a lot of cards like this, I think. And to me, it makes it stand out a little bit more. And I really like that. So I do like this card. I like it quite a bit. So disagree on the outlining, at least. I think that and the coloring is pretty cool.
I almost wonder if it is from a cartoon. It looks like it could be animated.
Yeah, I think the coloring is a little bit too nuanced for a cartoon, but it does kind of have that like cell shaded look to it. Like it was done in 3D and then like automatically kind of processed into an illustration.
It does look like it could be zoomed in as well. Maybe that's why all those like those things come across in it.
It looks almost like Archer style art.
Yeah. That's a good comparison, and I like Archer. I like that art. So
I think if that were the case, then I want the coloring to be less than it is. Like, there's something about the way it all comes together, along with the background. Like, the background almost looks like it's a photo with a filter on it. I don't know. We just need to find the original artwork for this and maybe get some more context for it.
That would be fair.
Because a lot of times when you condense something down into, like, a single frame and you're cropping a page down, a lot of times you miss out on a lot of the context, and so maybe I'm missing something here, but there's just like too much weirdness going on for it to be a good card for me.
And I'll also say for me, I'm a fan of really good, like, bold inking. It's one of the reasons I like Terry Dodson art a lot, is because Rachel Dodson inks a lot of his work, if not all, and she does a lot of really cool, bold inking at times for things, and I'm really drawn to that. So I think a good inking over some art can really make cards unique, or not cards, but art unique. And that's what I'm getting from this. I'm just getting a unique inker's perspective, which I think I appreciate. Like, even like the detail like on his rib cage, on his, what is that, his right side, that little squiggle, like that I just really appreciate as on an inker's standpoint. It just kind of adds a little bit more depth to it. So again, gonna defend this card.
Fair enough. All right, this next one, I don't think that anyone is going to disagree with. It's a relatively new card. Card number SEC001, SEC002. It is Cable, anti-reg from the Civil War arc. I don't think that anyone likes the art selection for this card, and we can't find it, probably for the best.
Yeah, this was one of my choices, and as a big X-Men fan, this costume on Cable is one of my least favorites. Now, I do understand that they are choosing art from the Civil War comics, if not that Civil War period around, what is that, like 2005, 2006, something like that. So they're choosing art from that era. So this does fit into the Civil War era. And he's even, I don't know if he's fighting Captain America, but he's having some sort of confrontation with Captain America on this page. I found the page, just cannot find where exactly it's from. Did some Google searching for it, can't find the exact issue or book that it's from. So it makes sense why it's being chosen. It doesn't necessarily make it good art. I don't like the costume. He looks super stiff there. I can appreciate that he's using his TK here. So again, it's a character using an ability, which is good, and I like to see. But he just looks so stiff and so square, and that costume is not my favorite. I can't get behind this one. So this one is definitely on my least favorite list, as it is on other people as well.
Yeah, I've never seen this costume before I saw this card.
This is, I believe he's called like Superior Cable, something like that. But he's at the height of his power currently, and he knows he's at the height of his power. So he is trying to do a lot while he has this amount of power to like change the world for the better in his mind. So like that's kind of like the era that he's in, and it's just, I don't know, they tried to give him this look of like being superior, I guess. It doesn't work for me.
Look at all those pouches.
Are those pouches?
I don't even know. Yeah, exactly. It's like, are they? And I don't mind pouches. I think I'm, 90s X-Men guy here. I like the pouches. Don't mind those at all. What are they carrying them? No idea. But I think that he's cool with pouches. But yeah,
Tater tots.
I don't know what they are. Like these weird square things with like diamonds underneath.
They almost look like panels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you pull one off and there's like hardware underneath or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's very static artwork. The other Cables are more Cable-like, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like the Rob Liefeld, I mean, he's sort of classic Cable, and then there's one that's a little bit more painterly. Those kind of communicate who Cable is, whereas this one, he just like looks like he's gonna palm your head or something like that. I don't know.
Good boy.
Yeah.
I will not defend Rob Liefeld. He's not a good person. I do think that even he makes a better Cable art than this, though.
Yeah.
All right, next up we actually have two cards in one, both of the Sentinel cards from the Futures Past set. We have the Executive Type Sentinel and the Alpha Combat Unit Sentinel. Now, it's not necessarily that the art is bad, but Justin, tell us why you chose these cards.
Yeah, the art on these is actually pretty good, but the reason why I think it's some of the worst in the game is that they are kind of indistinguishable from each other. So we have these one-of-a-kind Sentinels. We have 8 of them, and then we have these Legion Sentinels where we have another 8 of them. And they do 2 different things, but it's really hard to look at the one and know exactly what it's doing just by looking at it. And that's even before you get to the one-of-a-kind where there are 8 different kinds and they each do something separate from each of the other 8. So you've got these 16 Sentinels, and they could do one thing or they could do one of 8 things, and it's just really frustrating to play with because you constantly have to be keeping track of which Sentinel is out and what it's doing. And when you look at the art, they both have multiple Sentinels in them. They are towering over small people.
They both have exactly 4 sentinels in each of them.
Yeah. And then they have, in one of them, they're firing blasts, and then the other one, they're shining a light, but Cyclops is firing a blast back, and the blast on the right is yellow, and the blast on the left is orange. So there's like so much between them that's exactly the same, and it's really difficult to play with these cards because you can't tell them apart.
Well, and actually, so you have the Sentinel on the right for both cards is firing some sort of blast, but the beam on the left, they're actually both Cyclops. It looks like one of them
you're right.
is from a Sentinel, but no, it's both Cyclops firing at the Sentinel. So it gets interesting. Like it's pretty interesting that there are 2 different artists that have done the same thing, and I don't know, maybe they're both like motifing a different artist from the past that was really popular that like brought Sentinels in or something, but they're so similar. They're so similar.
Yeah, pretty much the only functional difference is one is in the day and one is at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually made some proxies for the 8 one-of-a-kind different ones, and I printed them out. I chose different art for each one based on the Alpha Combat Unit learning program keyword that it grants, and I've played with it a couple times, and it's almost instant how much easier they are to recognize what each one of them does, just based on being able to differentiate the art from one from the other. And then, of course, when you have the Legion, you can keep that one as the same artwork, because then if you see multiple Sentinels out firing blasts, then you know that one has the executive type learning program or whatever.
And hint Upper Deck, maybe this is a good idea to do like booster packs or something like that to get some unique cards out there.
No.
It's something we've talked about. What? What?
No boosters.
No boost. Okay, maybe not boosters, but we've talked about like on the side, just like how I've played card games before and I miss like foil cards, or I love having special art cards. So maybe an OP kit. I don't know, something else that they could do to bring out some uniqueness and like those really interesting foil cards and things like that. Would be to give us different Sentinel cards so that we could differentiate. So just my thoughts, just my opinion.
Give us the Legion personalities and give us the Sentinel Alpha Combat Unit distinctive Sentinels.
Yeah.
I
mean, and you know what? You may say no boosters. I would not mind boosters where it's like, hey, we've got a booster for this set. It's going to have the exact same cards that you can get in any of the Civil War boxes or anything like that, but it's just got foils or alternate arts of things, and it's randomized. So if they don't want to like bring in if they want to have it as it's not a living card game, but it's a living card game. They just can't use that. If you want to have that, you can keep your boxes and all of that, but then give us boosters, which I know you don't like, Patrick, but give us boosters so that we can get randomized alternate art or foil art for cards, because I would put money into that.
Some of us nerds like to chase things.
Yes. Patrick is not happy with this, but my thoughts.
And next up, we have Phoebe from the Mutant Resistance, card number TUB-017.
So Phoebe is another one of my choices, and oh boy, I chose her out of all 3 of the Stepford Cuckoos. They all have that sort of just standing around, doing nothing look to them, which I'm never really a huge fan of. But this one especially was just not great. Like, maybe it's trying to be like playful and cute because she's playing what looks like a PSP on it, but that's just not very cool for me. I would love to have seen them, like, again, using their powers. And oh, that face. I have nothing kind to say about this face. Maybe it's zoomed in. I don't know. I don't know which one, which comic this is from, but there is something happening where she's doing that smirk with her mouth, the inking of her nose, like
It looks like a big
little,
nose ring.
yeah, like that little like circle dot thing that's happening there, and then the scrunching of her eyes. It just does not work for me.
Is that a PSP? Is that what that is?
I'm assuming that's what it is. That's what it looks like to me.
Or a camera?
No, I think she's playing a game because she has like that concentrated look on her face. I think she's playing a game.
Is that what that look is on her face?
I mean, I think. I don't know. Yeah, it just looks messy. And I actually like this artist. I remember reading, because I believe this is from the Utopia comics, and I like the art. Like, even the girl in the, I don't know if that's Esme or whoever else in the back, even she doesn't look bad. There's just some cool motion to her and all of that. And so just to see the differentiation of the two is just, it's just not great.
I feel like it's something that probably works in the comics because you're probably seeing a whole frame and she's off to the side kind of doing her own thing. But when it's focused in on for a card, then it's not doing her any favors.
Yeah.
Compared to her sisters.
Yeah, and even, I don't remember which of the other Stepford Cuckoos it is, but even on that one, he does that little nose circle thing, but it actually looks good there. So it just doesn't look, it just doesn't do her any respect on this card.
And next up, we have Valeria Richards. Card number FAN012 from the Fantastic Battles set. Matt, tell me why you don't like this art.
Oh boy. It's again the face for me. It's just standing still. So I am not a big Fantastic Four person. I don't know a lot about them. Seeing Valeria like this gives me no indication about who she is. She has these powers linked to the negative zone, and then she's a super genius as well. She has a ton of defense for some reason. I don't understand how this art is giving me any indication of who she is as a character. And then these lips are giant. They span the better part of her lower face. It's a lot of lip and then a lot of glasses. It's a look that I cannot get behind, especially for card art. Again, we're going back to that. It's the card art for me that I just can't get behind with it. I would have loved something where she's using her powers. Like, we have her
powers are that she's smart.
Well, like, have her build something then. I don't know. She's a link to the negative zone. What does that mean? What does that do?
I believe it's through technology.
I have no idea. I don't read Fantastic Four. That's what I'm telling you. So I see these things, and all I see is her just standing there. So having something where she is tinkering or, I don't know, just doing something else. I just don't get anything about her from this right here. And again, it just goes back to her just not doing anything here.
I think that's fair.
For me, it's the lips.
The lips.
Oh boy.
Yeah, those lips. That's like supermodel, like, injection lips. And
Yeah.
we've given this to a 7-year-old.
Yeah, she's 7 or 8, whatever it is.
So it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I think this is actually a common issue with artists because, again, this is Alan Davis, who is a very talented artist, but a lot of them spend day in and day out drawing people of a certain body type, and they're adults and they have specific proportions, and children do not have those proportions. And so a lot of times you get artists drawing basically shrunk down adults, and that's not what children are. Or you'll get, in this case, it feels like there's a child accurate body with like an adult woman's head just kind of plopped on top of it. And the lips are definitely not helping to give that childlike appearance. So,
I mean, you can tell she's got attitude, which I like, because I do think she has she's got like a kid with attitude. Because I really only read her in X-Men versus the Fantastic Four. I think that's all I've really seen her in, and she's a pretty rambunctious kid in that. But so I don't know. I've got nothing else.
I think you can also see Franklin in the background as well, and
Correct.
And the crop is strange in that it chops off all of his head and gives him this like really elongated neck. Like I've seen the cover and it looks fine.
Well, that's his power. He's headless.
He's fine, like within the context of the comic. It doesn't look too bad, but just with this crop, it just makes his neck look like it goes up into the heavens and doesn't end ever. Which is, I mean, his dad is Mr. Fantastic, but I don't think he has stretchy powers, right? It sort of makes it look like he does.
So I've just looked up Valeria Richards on Google, and I've already found the first art for her. I think is already better that I have found. If you look up Valeria Richards on Google, it's on her Marvel database for fandom. She is in a pretty cool like blue suit. She's got the big old 4 on her chest, and there is some like negative zone energy around her legs and her arms. It's almost as if she's like coming through the negative zone, and she's got these really cool red goggles on. So like both things in here, or both of her abilities on her card, I can kind of see in this. There's that negative zone look around her, if that's the negative zone. I don't know what this is from. But then she's also got those goggles like a super genius would have if they're tinkering or messing with something. So literally...
Yeah, goggles more than sunglasses would say
yes.
Smart.
So one Google search, and I don't know, maybe Upper Deck didn't have this art in their database of things that they could look through or look for. But Mark did talk about how they can just look at comics and take stuff from there. So again, I don't know, but one search with Valeria Richards on Google, and I found something that I like more. Just saying.
All right, speaking of cropping, we do have a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the worst of the worst. And the first honorable mention I have plays off of this. It's actually the Fantastic Four plot twist. Not that art is terrible, but they cropped it in a way so that only 3 of Mr. Fantastic's fingers are showing. On a Fantastic Four card, you only see 3 of his fingers. I don't understand why they did that. That's very upsetting. And of course, with cropping and frame selection, I have to give an honorable mention to the entire photographic universe for all of the awful, awful selections that they were, I'm assuming, just given to put on their cards.
Yeah, and I actually went in... The Fantastic Four one was strange to me, and I just went into Photoshop and really kind of roughed out a different crop, and I feel like it was stronger being able to see the 4 fingers. Like, you crop off their heads a little bit more, but I feel like if the point is that it's the 4, then you want to see the 4 fingers. And so I just would have done that differently, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
I have one honorable mention, and that is the Soul Stone. I think that one's such a strange... It's very zoomed in, and I think that just makes it look very strange because you can kind of see all the paint strokes up close in the coloring. The artwork itself is really cool where it's from, but the fact that they zoomed in so much, it almost looks like it's blurry and not like an actual stone. So that one almost made my list.
Yeah, it's one of the most zoomed in cards. A lot of the gems are actually pretty zoomed in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into the worst of the worst. We have 3 cards that we think have the worst art in the game. We'll start with a 2-in-1. Goblin Queen and Satana. Each of you have chosen one of these and coincidentally have the same artist. Talk about why.
So these are both by Greg Land, and I feel like I had the pick of the litter for which bad Greg Land art I wanted to choose, and I settled on Satana mostly because, again, I've seen the original where this is from, and she is in an impossible anatomical situation outside of the crop zone. Like, it kind of looks like she's sitting on a stoop or something like that. No, she's like sitting on her heels, and just her body doesn't make any sense if you get outside of this crop box, and it's sort of endemic of classic Greg Land.
And I have chosen Goblin Queen, again, Greg Land art, and if you look at both of these cards side by side, they could be the exact same person.
They could be.
It's like they both have, I mean, like Satana's hair is a little bit of a darker red. Goblin Queen has a little bit more light on her. But, I mean, Greg Land, and everybody on the internet talks about this, just people have an issue with how Greg Land draws women.
Well, woman. I think he draws one woman.
One woman. Different hairstyles sometimes, but all in these, like, sexy poses, and, like, Zatanna, like, does she even have a stomach at all? She's so skinny.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is just an issue in comics in general. I mean, you just have these women that are drawn in sexy poses, and they're just trying to look sexy. And sex sells, so I get it. But it is an issue, I think, with Greg Land specifically. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of Mark Brooks, and even he will draw women in sexy poses quite often. But he also draws them in very powerful and cool poses as well. He actually just posted about an issue of A-Force he did, and he had all of the characters doing roller derby. And that was super cool. And so, like, he, I think, does have a good balance of drawing women very sexy, but then also having the balance of drawing them as powerful women, or just doing anything else at times. I don't really see that with Greg Land art specifically around women, and they're always like these cheesy smiles with Greg Land art too. So that's why I chose a Greg Land as my least favorite. And it's very interesting. We didn't even talk about the cards that we were choosing before it. So for us both to have a Greg Land piece as our least favorite, I thought was pretty funny.
I mean, I don't even think he draws men that well either. Like, and a lot of it is because he traces a lot of his artwork, and I think that's a fine tool as an artist. But for his stuff, it's just always so transparent that he's just lightboxing some photo that he found, some reference material, and a lot of times the characters look kind of pasted into a scene because there's not a natural flow to the pencil work, because he's basically just like traced a character on top of a background or whatever, and so it just doesn't, there's like a certain allure to it, and I honestly think that he's being carried by his colorist a good portion of the time, where the colors will kind of add dimension that's missing from his artwork. But like overall, you can see repeated panels from where he's used the same source material to trace things. You can see celebrity images and likenesses in comics because he's just copied their headshots or whatever. He did a thing for the title Sojourn, where there's this kind of Boris Karloff zombie type character named Mordath. I think that's right, Mordath. And he actually traced Boris Karloff. Like, you can just see that he traced Boris Karloff's face, and then in another frame, then he traced Ray Park, who plays Darth Maul, and Toad. He traced a Toad movie frame, and so Mordath, who has like a bald head, kind of looks like Darth Maul, and so it's like, oh, there's just Darth Maul in this fantasy comic book that I'm reading. Yeah, I just think that there's way too much Greg Land art in this game for how kind of hacky he is as an artist.
Yeah, and it's tough because, like, objectively the art is well done. Like, even if it's traced, like, the art looks good. It's just how it's just the critical eye that he brings to it, of how he does women and the tracing and like all these same smiles. Because I will say there is good Greg Land art, and it's actually one of my top cards that we're going to be talking about in the next episode. But just these ones, it's just bad. It's just not good. I don't like it.
So I just have one plea to Danny and Ben and Mark and whoever's finding art. Just please lay off the Greg Land for at least a little while. Give us something. Give us anyone else. We don't need any more Greg Land.
I co-sign.
I try-sign.
And the last one that we have is the worst of the worst. It is Weapon, the equipment card, FAN 026 from the Fantastic Battles. This card, not necessarily that the art is bad, but what art! It is the most zoomed in card art that we have. I spent so much time trying to find this artwork. It's Doom that is holding this gun, and really you couldn't have chosen any other weapon. It's a gun that is zoomed in so far that you can't even make out anything else around it. This is just really annoyingly zoomed in.
Yeah, you can even I feel like you can even see the grit of the inking. Every little stroke when it's zoomed out probably looks fine, but it's so zoomed in you can see every little tiny tremor in a hand gesture as it's going through it, and it's so zoomed.
Yeah, it's almost like a scribble.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying that.
Terrible. There are so many weapons in Marvel Comics. You couldn't have chosen anything else, or
How
maybe
dare.
a weapons cache or a weapons room or something.
Yeah, the Punisher or something like that.
Well-
Yeah, I think that they wanted to stick with Doctor Doom because,
Yeah.
or within the Fantastic Four because it was a Fantastic Battles, but you can't
That's
even tell
true.
it's Doctor Doom.
Yeah, they could have zoomed out and shown Doctor Doom holding the weapon, and it would still make sense as
Yeah.
a weapon.
Yeah,
But instead, they zoomed in all the way onto just the weapon. It's really silly.
Yeah. Well, and maybe if they had done a zoom out, given us Doom and it holding the weapon, even if it's just from chest up or something, maybe, and then just given it a different name. I don't know what they would have given it, but Doom's gun, Doom's weapon, weapon of Doom. I don't know, something else.
Well, it's a generic invention, so it's someone every inventor has to be able to invent it. So they can't invent Doom's gun specifically.
True. Fine.
But yeah, it's a weird one.
It's an annoying one for sure.
Maybe I think you had said this before. Maybe they were just testing you. They're like, we're gonna call something weapon.
I think so.
And then we're gonna zoom in so close to it just to give Deconstruct the Universe a really tough job to find something.
I think so, but I got around it. I found it. Took a lot of reverse searching, but I did it.
Suck it, Upper Deck.
All right, that's all we have for today. I'd like to give a shout out to our patrons, Mr. Ben, Joe, Jason, Ty, and Katie. If you like what you heard today and want more, head on over to patreon.com and sign up to show us some love. Thanks for joining. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching Deconstruct VS. If you agree with us, disagree with us, or want to throw in some additional worst art, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Until next time, go read some comics.